One of the 10 famous swords once forged by Wu Yizi, the Yuqing sword, now sits in a junk shop, which was ignored for 100 years. Everyone believes it to be merely a rusted iron sword. Only the man stares at it with gleaming eyes. Without hesitation, he transfers 100 million to the blacksmith's account. This action leaves the blacksmith speechless with shock. Yet before this, the man had been a guardian deity, providing shelter for countless living beings. But humans betrayed the life that protected the world. They even went so far as to link up with thousands of hostile gods and sacrifice their own lives. All to bring death as judgment upon a god. For the young man was the world's first and last god of destruction. The moment he ascended to godhood, he was granted the title King of Gods, slaying thousands of powerful deities with his strength alone. His overwhelming power aroused jealousy and fear among the gods, who united with the court of judgment to sentence the god of destruction to death. What they never anticipated was that Changshan miraculously survived. However, what puzzled Changsun was his certainty that he had died. More precisely, his soul had been scattered. Immediately, Li Changsun summoned his system panel, and it is obvious that the system couldn't function normally. The only certainty now was that Changsun's divine position, throne, faith, and status had been forcibly degraded. Even his divine power and divinity abolished. Yet somehow his consciousness remained intact. While pondering this, a tremendous sound echoed across the vast lake. Li Changsun turned to look. At the bow of the boat stood a solemn man in black. He began recounting all of Changsun's past experiences without introduction. When the man mentioned the judgment by the gods, Changsun hesitated no longer, moving with extreme speed to the man's side, extending his right hand to grab him. Fortunately, the black-robed man reacted swiftly, flying into the air and drawing his sword. But even as the cold blade approached Chong's flesh, he still swung his fist. In an instant, the cold blade and fiery fist collided. The lake surface erupted into towering waves from the tremendous force. Fear flashed in the black-robed man's eyes. Using Chong force to retreat rapidly, then striking the water to obscure Chongsun's vision, he stared in disbelief at the scene before him. Even though Li Chongsun had lost his divine rank and power, he still couldn't match him. Just as Chongsun prepared to end this farce, golden mysterious cubes suddenly appeared in the air, instantly suppressing Chongsun, who was about to go berserk. This was a divine suppression device. No matter how powerful a god might be, such strong restraints would weaken them to something more feeble than a slime. The black-robed man returned to his previous nonchalant demeanor, introducing himself. I am Yule, a top-tier death god of the underworld. This is the afterlife realm known as the underworld. Hearing this, Changsun's gaze sharpened. As I understand it, gods whose souls have scattered have no afterlife. But you're different. If you want to know all the details, listen as I explain along the way. Everyone has their own life, with their existence and fate recorded in the Book of Life and Death. But one day, the book lost half its contents. The missing content was precisely your divine realm of Arcadia, which you turned into complete chaos. Yet to bring you back, the underworld sacrificed many things. Hearing this, Changshun fell silent. Why do this? Wouldn't it be better for the underworld to let my soul scatter completely? Hearing this, pride appeared on Yol's face, because those were the orders of the underworld king. Soon after, they reached the shore of the underworld city. Yol led Changsun to the great gates, then respectfully reported, Level 1 Reaper Yol, under your command, has successfully escorted the god of destruction here. As soon as he finished speaking, the tightly closed gates suddenly opened. Magnificent black energy suddenly surged from within. Come in. An overwhelming pressure rushed forth. Changsun sensed the hidden eyes watching from beyond space. A bloodthirsty battle instinct rose within him. How interesting. After entering, seated upon the throne was Thanatos, king of the underworld. The underworld king spoke mockingly. From the moment you crossed into Arcadia, you fought like a madman without stopping. Is that why you became the god of destruction? However, this boring conversation made Changsun impatient, and he spoke with fierce eyes. What exactly do you want to say? Hearing this, the underworld king changed his previous mocking posture. I want you to carry shackles to the mortal world, making gods who broke their oaths into servants of the underworld. And I will send you back to where you should have gone. With that, the underworld king waved his massive hand. A blue planet appeared before Changsun's eyes. He showed rare emotion of longing. After all, this was his homeland. Then the underworld king grinned. Look carefully. What happens next might make you dizzy. The earth began to enlarge continuously, until every person on the streets could be seen clearly. And the young man drinking himself into a stupor was Chang himself. After regaining his senses, Chang asked curiously, what made you give me this opportunity? Because they broke their oaths using loopholes to interfere with humans. That's why you could cross into the dungeon in your previous life, but the underworld cannot intervene in the mortal world. If you can become a hound, when your work is done, I'll remove your shackles and give you a new life. Hearing this, Chong soon smiled contemptuously, having lost all desire for life. Don't rush or refuse. If you perform perfectly, I'll give you another gift, jurisdiction rights. These words startled Chang Sun deeply. Are you certain you can give jurisdiction rights without breaking oaths? Of course. The oath itself is a shackle. You can also call it the king's blessing. So what do you intend? Hearing this, Chang Sun revealed a greedy smile. If you're offering that, then I have no reason to refuse. The underworld king immediately summoned a contract scroll, then the deal is made. All death gods hear my command. Open the gate of return to the mortal realm immediately. As the gate slowly opened, Chang Sun leaped into the passage leading to his homeland. He felt the essence of home and slowly closed his eyes to enjoy the long-missed moment. As the system notification sounded, you have successfully passed through the reincarnation gate. Welcome to planet Earth. When Chang Sun opened his eyes again, he had already returned to his long-desired homeland, Earth. After a moment of indulgent rest, Chang Sun sprang up from the ground, recalling the underworld king's instructions before reincarnation. To ensure successful reincarnation, your destination will be Earth, but not entirely Earth. And the only place that can avoid the gaze of other worldly gods is the dungeon. This was the temporary dungeon, a magnificent jungle. At this moment, the system notification sounded mission theme, exploration. Everyone needs to defeat monsters roaming throughout the dungeon areas and reach the mountain summit on the opposite side. To help participants complete the mission successfully, everyone will be provided with inventory status bars and skill bars. Good luck to all. The first area will now open, as these words ended. While everyone else remained confused, Cheng Sun rushed toward the distance without hesitation. But he hadn't gone far. Before, he was panting heavily, which frustrated him. The former god of destruction reduced to a feeble man. So Cheng stopped and called up his system. Though his reincarnation preserved everything, to avoid other worldly gods, all abilities were sealed and reset, rendering them unusable. Seeing this, Cheng Sun didn't dwell on it and turned to search for the special ability promised by the underworld king. But no matter how he checked the system panel, it wasn't there. Just then, the system notification sounded again. System update complete. Related content will be displayed according to the upgraded system. The system panel transformed. The previously chaotic question mark panel disappeared, replaced by simple low-level attributes. The only difference was the possession of two special skills, Soul Exploitation and Execution Sword. Soul Exploitation allows the user to imprison souls slain by their sword in their inventory, burning them with hellfire to strip away their karma. As part of the Underworld King skill set, its most special ability is that for each monster defeated and soul deprived, not only would one gain substantial experience points, but also recover stamina and heal wounds, effectively avoiding the dangers of energy depletion and accumulated injuries when facing numerous enemies. However, the most unbalanced ability of the skill is the power to summon an enemy's soul and polarize it, thereby achieving interrogation. The other skill, Execution Sword, could be called the most invincible developmental skill in the entire divine realm, allowing one to seize part of a criminal's skills. And skills referred to divine powers, theoretically enabling the collection of countless abilities to reach omniscience and omnipotence. Seeing this, Chang Sun smiled slightly. It seemed the underworld king had been greatly angered by the other worldly gods to bestow such skills upon him. However, the Execution Sword couldn't be used normally yet, as its usage conditions were exceedingly strict. The target must be an oath-breaker, and if the opponent was stronger than the user, there could even be a backlash. So for safety, Chang Sun decided to temporarily seal this skill, planning to unseal it later when his strength reached a certain level. Just then, Chang suddenly stopped. Behind him appeared a monster, a black mamba snake, opening its bloody maw to strike at him. Seeing this, a flash of excitement passed through Chang Sun's eyes as he summoned his beginner weapon, a rusted short sword. With lightning speed, he pierced through the black mamba's solid body. Simultaneously, the system notification sounded, "You have killed the black mamba with one strike, achieving a perfect attack. As a reward, you gain the basic short sword skill, along with various attribute points and experience." However, Chang Sun sneered at these rewards. Only one caught his interest. The deity, the avid hunter, is showing interest in you. Because dungeons were trials where deities would select their divine office personnel. Some would even choose apostles to represent their will. From that time on, humans transitioned from initial fear and disgust to later competing fervently, countless humans rushing like moths to flames. Yet 99% of people would become dust in the dungeon. Because for arrogant deities and star gods, humans' fleeting lives were merely after-dinner sweets. Moreover, only an extremely small number of chosen ones could barely reach the passing line unless someone displayed incomparable talent during the mission. At this moment, surprise flashed in Chang Xuan's eyes. He never expected to win such a grand prize. The avid hunter's true name was Pavlsog, a war god skilled in hunting with various weapons. However, the real reason for Chang Xuan's joy wasn't because of her, but because Pavlsag's mother was the ancient evil dragon Tiamat. As one of the oldest mythological legends of ancient Babylon, her strength was unquestionable, perhaps even matching Zeus, the king of gods. Attracting the attention of such a great figure suggested she was very satisfied with Chang Sun's short sword skills. At the same time, the system issued another prompt. The divine seat, the avid hunter, is curious about what hunting techniques you will display next. Hearing this, Chang Sun revealed unparalleled confidence. I'll show you what real hunting looks like. The scene changes. Chang Sun entered a jungle filled with poisonous gas alone. Ordinary people entering unprepared would soon become monster meals. Since he wanted to show the avid hunter something different, he would use the style of a snake hunter to show her what hunting truly meant. Just then, two black mambas suddenly appeared behind Chang Sun, rushing toward him like startled birds. Yet Chang Sun was faster, instantly drawing his short sword and flashing to the monster's front. In that moment, the cold blade split the black mamba in two. At this moment, Chang Sun was like the god of death, mercilessly harvesting the lives of black mambas throughout the jungle, even frightening them into identifying Chang Sun as their natural predator, successfully instilling fear. Yet Chang Sun had no intention of stopping, like a hound closely following the black mamba's tail, continuously devouring the remaining monsters in the jungle. Meanwhile, the system notification sounded. You've acquired the title Slaughterer of Black Mambas. Effect, Strength +5, and ability to trigger fear in snake-type creatures. At this moment, Chang Sun gradually sank into the stimulation and joy of slaughter. This feeling that only existed in Arcadia in his past life brought him immense pleasure. Only when the last black mamba in the jungle was killed did Chang stop. Such an impressive achievement quickly attracted divine attention. So Chang struck while the iron was hot, targeting the king of the Black Mamba clan, the bloody Black Mamba. For a beginner below level 10, defeating a boss-level monster was simply a fantasy. But if Chang could defeat it alone, it would be an excellent opportunity to attract the attention of even more powerful deities. More importantly, the bloody Black Mamba possessed a unique poison fang that could grant Chang the divine skill immunity to all poisons, and this was the only chance to obtain this skill. Thinking of this, Chang Sun gritted his teeth in resentment. In his previous life, during that devastating battle of Ragnarok, his greatest reason for defeat was being afflicted by the world's most malicious curse and poison, Gaia's curse, which greatly reduced his judgment and combat power, leading to his defeat. So for revenge, he must obtain this poison fang. However, at that moment, the rusted iron sword suddenly shattered due to depleted durability, making his mindset almost collapse. How could it break just when he had made such a boast? But on second thought, for the most inferior weapon to last until now was already quite remarkable. Just then, a sharp whistling sound came from the sky. A sharp cleaver pierced into the ground, startling Chang Sun, who thought an enemy was attacking, but with his vast experience, he recognized this weapon immediately. This was one of the ancient deity Tiamat's sacred artifacts, the dragon's fang. The aura emanating from the blade alone made Chang Sun secretly alarmed. But this rang warning bells in his mind, because deities were never benevolent beings rescuing people from peril. Sure enough, the divine seat, the avid hunter proposed wagering the weapon, suggesting a bet with Chang Sun. If he failed, he would have his life taken for wasting time. Conversely, the sword with dragon scale patterns would be his. Hearing this, Chang Sun drew the great sword and agreed to the bet. So what do you need me to do? Hearing this question, the divine seat expressed great pleasure, indicating her admiration for Chang Sun's magnanimous spirit. Then in the safe zone of the dungeon, a burly man silenced the noisy crowd, declaring his identity. I am C-Class player Park Ha-sung, Lieutenant from the National Security Support Command. Please follow emergency training and abide by my instructions. At first, no one believed him. Until they confirmed Park Ha-sung's credentials were genuine, then they sighed in relief. Thankfully, we have a player here. Otherwise, no one would survive this difficulty-level dungeon. Suddenly, someone mentioned, that guy who rushed out as soon as the dungeon task appeared, now we can only pray for his safety. Then someone speculated that he might be a player hunter, specifically hunting monsters for high rewards. Hearing this, the blonde man sneered, perhaps that guy is richer than all of us here. When others wondered how he knew, the blonde confidently stated he was Tyrant, the leader of Saint Band, who had made quite a name in entertainment circles with his handsome face and terrible personality, even shooting many advertisements. Rumor said that he was a rich second-generation heir, and according to media exposure, since his retirement, he had become addicted to alcohol. Nothing in the world could arouse his desire. Perhaps he was so reckless because he was tired of living. As soon as he finished speaking, the system began sending continuous notification panels. Under everyone's incredulous gaze, all black mamba snakes in the dungeon had been exterminated. And before they could react, white worms have all been eliminated. Blue lizards have all been eliminated. Player Lee Changshun is on a killing spree. The cold system notifications astonished Park Ha-sung. He had never heard of such a formidable talent in the country. Without exaggeration, the achievements Chang Sun displayed now could only possibly be accomplished by legendary deities. Meanwhile, Li Chang Sun freely activated his soul exploitation skill. The reason he dared to do this under divine observation was his confidence that no existing deity could determine which system his talent belonged to. After all, who would imagine that a beginner who just entered the dungeon was actually blessed by the underworld king? After absorbing all souls and recovering his stamina, the system issued a sudden mission, Hunter's Proof, which puzzled Chongqing. After the system's explanation, he understood that recently, the avid hunter divine rank had stagnated, and to collect faith power, she urgently needed to cultivate apostles and priests, but all her candidates already had guardian stars, forcing her to observe beginners in the novice area. Thanks to Chang's outstanding strength, the avid hunter viewed him as an apostle candidate. So from now on, he needed to defeat the bloody Black Mamba within 24 hours using the temporary weapon. Hearing this, Chang Sun's confusion cleared. Even when he was a deity, he had heard of the great conflict between Tiamat and Marduk, which had escalated to a life-or-death situation. Though rumors needed verification, the current situation was beneficial for Chong Sun, allowing him to reap more benefits. Moreover, this weapon was definitely not ordinary. It was made from Tiamat's teeth, a weapon with personality. However, the greedy Changshun wanted far more than this. He looked up and added a wager to the avid hunter. From now on, I will defeat the bloody Black Mamba in 30 minutes. As soon as he finished, the jungle rustled with leaves. The interesting proposal was readily accepted by the avid hunter. But she then sternly warned, if you fail, I will make you beg for life without receiving it, and beg for death without obtaining it. Hearing this, Chang Sun immediately raced toward the jungle depths. But he had barely taken a few steps, when a corpse flower suddenly sprang from the ground, blocking his path with such a massive body, yet possessing unnatural agility, constantly tunneling through the earth. For beginners, such monsters were nightmares because of their super regenerative abilities. If you couldn't kill them in one strike, they would exhaust your stamina until death, leaving you watching helplessly as you became their nutrients. Unfortunately for them, they faced Chong Sun, the god of destruction reborn from hell. He leaped into the air, timing his strike perfectly to pierce the corpse flower, using his body weight to create a massive wound, then twisting the knife handle. With a crack, the flower was decapitated. But before he could catch his breath, more monsters attacked from all directions. Everything seemed strange, as if deliberately consuming his bedtime. Yet, Sun wasn't worried at all, because at the same time in the divine realm, news of Chang Sun's bet with the deity spread rapidly. Though initially skeptical, upon seeing Chang Sun's superior combat techniques, deities became curious about him. In less than 5 minutes, over dozens of deities and star gods turned their gaze upon him. But this sudden attention left the avid hunter flustered, warning other deities and stars interested in Chang Sun that she had seen him first. Seeing this, Chang Sun's mood improved greatly. Not only had he achieved his desired effect of attracting numerous deities' attention, but also achieved the unique accomplishment in the novice area, talent breaking through the novice area, one of the rare opportunities for Chang Sun to obtain a hidden profession. He wouldn't choose a mediocre profession out of ignorance like in his previous life. However, at this early stage, obtaining rare professions like Dragon Lord or Dark King was probably impossible. And given the current situation, Berserker would be the optimal choice. Although increasing attack power would gradually lead to loss of rationality, Changshun was confident in counteracting this side effect. And only by choosing Berserker would he have a chance to win this bet. After all, under normal circumstances, the bloody Black Mamba was a monster that even level 20 players struggled against. However, when the profession results were announced, Chang was dumbfounded. Not only was Berserker missing from the profession list, but most were trash tier low-level professions. Now, Chang Sun was in a dilemma. Behind him was the bloody Black Mamba, known as the Beginner Killer. Before him, a countdown with less than 6 minutes remaining. Fortunately, heaven doesn't cut off all paths. Turning to the last item on the list, appeared the most destructive beginner profession, Runic Mage. In terms of pure destructive power, it was even stronger than a fully berserker, though it lacked some close combat ability. But his previous life's experience was enough to compensate, so Chang Sun hesitated no longer. You have chosen Runic Mage for your first profession, gaining 5 points in dexterity and intelligence, and adding new attributes, intelligence and willpower. Learn basic skills, rune inscription, and rune creation. Chang Sun then allocated his accumulated 55 free attribute points, 30 points to intelligence, 25 points to willpower. But at that moment, the bloody Black Mamba discovered Chang Sun hiding behind a tree, rushing toward him with extreme speed. But Chang Sun was faster, instantly dodging this fatal strike. Then activating the rune creation skill, his eyes immediately filled with magical power turning azure blue. He placed his hand horizontally above the long sword. Under the puzzled gaze of deities, he cut his fingertip using blood as the lure to inscribe runes on the sword blade. The system notification sounded. You have successfully inscribed an explosive rune. The scene shocked the deities. A beginner who had just entered the dungeon was so proficient with runic text. Now with the rune enhancement, magical power surged from the blade like a huge wave, creating pressure that made even the air vibrate. You have exhausted your mana. As a reward for your first rune inscription, the explosive rune will exert 5 times its power for 1 minute. With a roar, Cheng Sun raised his sword and engaged the monster in battle. The intense collision even raised a magical wave in the jungle. Even people far away in the safe zone could clearly see it. Park Ha-sung was sweating profusely at this sight. Explosion sounds had been coming from the jungle, but this last one was louder than any before. Even from the safe zone, he could feel the energy wave from the explosion. While everyone was puzzled, the system suddenly issued a notification. Player Lee Chang-sun is assaulting the boss monster Bloody Black Mamba. The scene left everyone wide-mouthed with shock, especially player Park Ha-sung who stood stunned, initially disbelieving. But when he saw the golden cross light in the smoke, he had to believe it. Because that was an effect that only appeared with skill critical hits, indicating Lee Chang-sun possessed unimaginable combat power. At this moment, a thought he had never considered before germinated in his mind. Perhaps everyone could safely escape from the dungeon. As the smoke gradually dispersed, 2 figures emerged from the brilliant haze. Both now understood that this strike would determine life or death. With a violent explosion echoing throughout the dungeon, dust once again enveloped the entire jungle. Moments later, under everyone's incredulous gaze, successfully defeated the first boss monster Bloody Black Mamba, successfully opened the first dungeon area. Dungeon ranking updated. First, Lee Chang-sun, score 4,999. Second, Park Ha-sung, score 1. Now, Chang-sun stood proudly at the mountain top like a war god. Just as Park Ha-sung witnessed again that unforgettable scene, the birth of humanity's new 10 kings. After Chang-sun defeated the boss monster Bloody Black Mamba, he roughly tossed the monster's head into the safe zone. The residual fierce aura on his body frightened everyone, trembling with fear, worried that blood-eyed Chang-sun might give them a slash too. After confirming the burly man in front was a player, Chang-sun issued commands without hesitation. I've taken down the first area's boss. The remaining small fry are yours. Hearing this, Park Ha-sung quickly offered to clear space for his training. But Chang-sun didn't appreciate the gesture, picking up the monster's head by himself and heading into the jungle depths without looking back. He didn't want to be observed like an animal, especially since he harbored secrets that couldn't be revealed. After Chang-sun left, everyone in the safe zone sighed with relief. Merely sharing space with him created such pressure that they felt unsettled. Some even described Chang-sun as a demon, making the man laugh heartily. If he were truly a demon, everyone here would already be dead. What they didn't know was that Chang-sun heard every word they spoke crystal clear. Now, Chang-sun chuckled lightly. After all, displaying such powerful abilities in the novice area, their thoughts weren't surprising. Then Chang came to a spacious and quiet area to avoid disturbance. He inscribed an isolation rune on the spot, effectively blocking small monsters and other players. Then Chang-sun summoned his system panel to organize the rewards from killing the boss and winning the bet. Beyond the 3 basic mission rewards, he received 2 additional achievement rewards. Chang first checked these achievement rewards and seeing the option list. Chang-sun smiled slightly. As expected, his level was too low for good rewards and the Dragon's Fang was already sufficient for the entire novice period. So the optimal choice now was attack points. After confirming the reward, Chang-sun received 15,000 attack points at once. Though attack points were useless in the novice period, once them all opened, they could exchange for many powerful items with super effects. In other words, attack points were the mortal equivalent of money. Next, Chang-sun opened his status panel. Thanks to single-handedly killing the boss-level Bloody Black Mamba, his current attribute points were no exaggeration. Even level 30 players might not defeat him. Just then, a ringing sound interrupted his thoughts. Several deities had expressed interest in Chang-sun quite blatantly, angering the avid hunter who again warned the gods, even invoking her mother, the ancient dragon goddess Tiamat. The avid hunter then asked Chang-sun, as an extra reward for our betting contract, what reward do you wish to receive? Then to Chang-sun's amazement, opening the dragon's treasury for you, countless precious treasures appeared before him. Any single item from this collection would drive countless people crazy if taken outside. However, Chang-sun was already prepared. Under the confused gaze of many deities, he closed the reward list. Due to not selecting any reward, unclaimed rewards converted to 1 million attack points. Because he knew clearly that accepting rewards now would definitely lead to trouble from her enemy god, Pavel Seg, in the future. And rumors suggested the reward system could accumulate, producing unexpected effects when used at crucial moments. This action displeased the avid hunter, though fortunately one reward remained, apostle candidate. But to her surprise, Chang-sun gave no face at all, rejecting once more this reward that ordinary people would dream of. Hearing this, the avid hunter exploded in rage. No human has ever dared to tease her like this. In her fury, she roared fiercely at Changsun before leaving, "You will definitely regret this." Little did she know Changsun wasn't afraid, but had acted deliberately, because he understood clearly that as long as he demonstrated tremendous value, he would continuously receive divine blessings and reap more benefits in the future. Currently, everything was proceeding according to Changsun's plan, and he turned his head. Next would be entering the following stage. Immediately after, he picked up his long sword, and he began dissecting the corpse of the bloody mamba snake. This Lord-level monster was a treasure trove from head to toe. Meanwhile, the distant safe zone was far from peaceful, while everyone was secretly rejoicing at having survived. The blonde-haired man harbored tremendous hostility towards Chang Sun, or rather, absolute jealousy. He refused to believe that a drunkard could accomplish such feats. His next words made his companions think he had lost his mind. "That's right. I can definitely do it too. I seem to have awakened some kind of talent here." Before his eyes, the system panel displayed prompt information. The deity, the twilight-piercing owl, is deeply interested in the talent of player Jian Chunjie. Upon hearing this, his companions were utterly shocked, as they had never heard of anyone being able to establish a connection with a deity again after undergoing the awakening test. However, at that moment, a sharp piercing sound suddenly echoed from the sky. Before anyone could react, it crashed heavily toward the people in the safe zone. After the smoke cleared, the arrival was revealed to be the administrator of H-Channel, the rabbit messenger. The cute appearance instantly made everyone lower their guard, but then they expressed confusion about why an administrator would appear at this time. In response, the administrator explained that this was because they needed everyone's understanding. Under normal circumstances, in other words, the management policy was non-interference, granting everyone greater freedom. However, due to the explosive popularity of this dungeon, upper management continuously pressured them, forcing them to increase the dungeon's difficulty. At this moment, the administrator suddenly appeared behind Park Hassan. And what shocked him greatly was that the administrator not only knew his name, but also knew he was the sole survivor of the dungeon Evil Dragon's Cave. Upon hearing this, a chill ran straight to his skull. Even before departing, the administrator ominously stated that the management bureau had always been closely monitoring him. As the countdown reached 0, the administrator disappeared from the spot along with those words. Before Park Hassan could recover, miserable screams echoed from the distance. Ordinary people with no combat ability instantly became lambs for slaughter the moment they lost the safe zone. What awaited them was nothing but becoming delicacies in the bellies of magical beasts. But just then, a figure suddenly rushed out from the crowd, and this person was Jian Chungjie, who had just been chosen by the Divine Throne, the Twilight-piercing owl. At this moment, he was filled with confidence. Under the deity's protection, the demon wolves before him seemed as harmless as puppies. However, in a corner he couldn't perceive, the system panel suddenly changed, and the deity's name became a string of garbled characters. A trace of abnormal red also mysteriously filled his eyes. Meanwhile, far away in the jungle, Li Changsun finally extracted the venomous fang he desired. With just a few more items used in combination, he would become the first human to possess immunity to all poisons. But before he could celebrate, the system's cold notification sound pulled him back to harsh reality. The second area was about to open, and the deities eagerly anticipated his upcoming performance. Changsun hadn't expected the selection ceremony to begin so quickly. He thought he could rest and relax for a while. It seemed that deceiving the avid hunter had attracted considerable attention from stars and deities. Opening his attribute panel, Changsun could be described as more fragile than paper. His nearly depleted health and mana were minor issues. The most critical problem was his stamina. However, the current situation didn't allow him to rest and recover stamina, because no matter where he ran, magical beasts would suddenly appear. The fire lizard, true to its name, instantly incinerated everything around it with scorching flames. Ordinary people would certainly flee at first sight, but Changsun was different. At this moment, his heart was already blooming with joy. According to dungeon rules, the first area featured biological poison, the second area fire poison, so the following sequence would be ice poison, mineral poison, and corrosive poison. This meant he now needed to do only one thing: store fire energy. The fire lizard launched the first assault, flames shooting forth like meteors. Fortunately, Changsun was agile, leaping up to dodge the sea of fire's consumption. Then he soared again into midair, taking advantage of the lizard's attack recovery period, to slash a long gash across its back with all his might. The intense pain instantly caused the lizard to lose composure, spewing flames forward recklessly, hoping to end this battle quickly. But Changsun had the same intention. He swung his sword to cleave through the flames, moving like a phantom around the lizard's massive body and piercing it with his long sword. Now the moment had arrived. He raised his sword and leaped up, decapitating the magical beast with devastating force. Though Chong won this battle easily, if magical beasts came in swarms to attack, his remaining stamina would cause significant trouble. Subsequently, Chang reached into the lizard's corpse, which was heated to 1,000 degrees, and extracted a fiery red orb, the fire relic. Then he swallowed it without hesitation. The high temperature brought tremendous pain to his mouth, causing Chang Sun's expression to contort. But beneath this agony came improved fire resistance and accumulated fire energy. Until he could bear it no longer, flame spouted from his mouth like magic tricks. However, this single fire relic was far from satisfying Chang Shan. He needed to consume more relics to fulfill the second condition for achieving immunity to all poisons. The fuel for the 8 trigrams furnace. He needed to collect enough fire seeds to ignite the furnace in the shortest time possible. Cheng Sun urgently needed to obtain the skill immunity to all poisons, because this was the exclusive ability of his nemesis, Scorpio of the Zodiac. As an exclusive ability, its perverse effect wasn't in immunizing against all toxins in the world, but in recombining various toxins into blood poison that kills invisibly. This was why, in his previous life, even though Cheng Sun possessed combat power surpassing Scorpio, when struck by Gaia's curse, he still suffered instant divine collapse, ultimately falling in battle. If he hadn't gotten a chance in hell, under arrangement of King of the Underworld, to learn secret arts from some of the fallen stars. Otherwise, he would be under Scorpio's venom for the rest of his life. The fallen stars were a group of criminals imprisoned in the underworld. Though criminals, they all shared one common trait. They were all mortal enemies of the Zodiac. Among them, a deity named Yila had lost his daughter because of Scorpio. And under his careful guidance, Cheng learned the shortcut to achieving immunity to all poisons. But after slaying all the lizards in the vicinity, the stored fire seeds were still insufficient to ignite the 8 trigrams furnace. So Cheng Sun immediately rushed deeper into the jungle. He needed to find the magical beast's main camp. Only by consuming fire seeds dropped by stronger magical beasts could he gather enough to ignite the 8 trigrams furnace. Meanwhile, at the jungle's perimeter, Jiangsheng Jie, blessed by the deity, was now like a god of war. Fire lizards were mere playthings in his hands. If he could maintain this momentum, he might even trample Li Chang underfoot. But when he opened the dungeon leaderboard, he froze in place. No matter how hard he tried, the gap between him and Li Chang's son remained insurmountably vast. Jealousy and unwillingness instantly clouded his mind. He couldn't believe why that guy could be so powerful, and he thought he must be using some evil methods. At this moment, the Divine Throne suddenly sent a message. In that case, you can also use any means necessary. The demonic whisper instantly ignited the jealousy in Zhongzhong Jie's heart. At this moment, he completely descended into madness. To trample Li Changshan underfoot, he was willing to sacrifice everything. The moment he agreed, danger in the dungeon no longer came only from magical beasts, but also from humans. Seeing someone who was just an ordinary person like themselves a few days ago suddenly transform into a divine candidate naturally created some psychological disparity. At this time, Zhongshan Jie suddenly stepped forward, claiming that the deity had just responded to everyone's prayers. As long as someone was willing to worship him, the deity would grant them supreme power. The scene shifted to a deer-type magical beast, frantically fleeing deeper into the jungle. Its panicked appearance made it impossible to imagine it was a lord-level magical beast that dominated the region. Fear had completely overwhelmed the magical beast's heart. But before it could run far, a human figure suddenly appeared above. With a crack, the magical beast was sent to hell. Then Chen grabbed the relic and swallowed it in one gulp. Powerful fire energy instantly surged through his entire body, as expected of a lord-level magical beast. At this moment, a sharp scream suddenly echoed from deep within the cave. Chan turned to look, and he saw a young girl being chased by a vicious giant bear. Just as the flowering maiden was about to meet her doom, the next second, the giant bear suddenly split in two before her eyes. Seeing this, Chang Sun quickly inquired if she was all right. Unexpectedly, instead of thanking him, the girl burst into tears, calling Chang Sun a monster. Upon hearing this, Chang Sun immediately panicked and frantically tried to comfort her, saying, "I'm not a monster. I'm Li Chang Sun, who came to the dungeon with you." After the girl calmed down, Chang Sun asked why she was alone. Upon hearing this, the girl covered her face and sobbed. Everyone was dead, her friends and all the others had all been abandoned by Zhongcheng Jie. Then she extended her arm to explain that the bastard had deceived everyone, claiming this was a contract mark that could share a divine power. The well-informed Chang Sun immediately spotted the problem. This wasn't a divine mark, but a demonic one. This mark meant that the moment you formed the contract, you sacrificed your soul to the demon. Moreover, the twilight-piercing owl mark didn't look like this. Zhong Zhongjia's purpose was simple, to become stronger. As long as someone with a mark died, his life force and soul power would be stolen by him. With no chance of reincarnation, a most malicious contract mark. What struck Zhong Zhongjia as very strange was that this mark's level was far too sophisticated. To create something this perfect would require at least a demon-level greater demon. But then Chang Sun simply walked away without looking back under the girl's shocked gaze, as it had no effect on him whatsoever. Seeing this, the girl quickly grabbed onto this lifeline, crying and pleading for Chang Sun's help. In the end, Chang Sun softened, but first he had to test her. He then pushed the girl away with a finger point. Saving you from the fire, marked bear was already generous enough. Upon hearing this, the girl quickly proved her worth, saying she would do anything. Cleaning, washing clothes, cooking, she was proficient in everything. So please help me become stronger. Seeing the resolute look in the girl's eyes, Chang Sun changed his opinion of her. She seemed not as weak as he had imagined. So you want to avenge your friends? Upon hearing this, the girl took out her last precious piece of chocolate and reluctantly offered it to Chang Sun. After Chang Sun refused, she asked again, can you really do everything you just said? After receiving the girl's confirmation. In that case, let me modify your mark first. Meanwhile, Jean Jay was surrounded by eerie black aura with continuous system notifications ringing in his ears. Under his careful orchestration, countless players died in accidents, becoming nutrients for Jean Sheng Jay's growth. At this moment, he could clearly feel the power within his body gradually increasing. Even the deity expressed great satisfaction with his development. As long as he could find the location of Lord-level monsters and stage a heroic drama when everyone sacrificed their lives for the birth of a hero, he would become the strongest player in this dungeon. He was determined to cast Li Chang Sun into the endless abyss of hell, just as he had once done to him. The scene shifted. Under Chang Sun's careful guidance, the girl's abilities had undergone a complete transformation. Even when facing several simultaneous wind attacks, she could nimbly escape to safety. Then she charged straight into a zombie horde, and she activated charm runes. Under the charm's influence, zombies were instantly immobilized, and they showed no reaction even when beheaded. Chang Sun moved through the zombie horde like the Grim Reaper, becoming a merciless harvesting machine. This was precisely the tactic Chang Sun had devised based on the girl's characteristics. Though the girl's combat ability was extremely poor, she had exceptional talent for escaping. So Chang Sun inscribed charm runes on the girl, making all zombie attention focus on her. The girl's tremendous speed was sufficient to lead these zombies on a wild chase, leaving the rest for Chang Sun to eliminate one by one. After eliminating all the zombies present, Chang Sun asked if this was the last one. Upon hearing this, the girl immediately flew to his side, rubbing her hands obsequiously as she answered, yes. I've already followed your instructions to attract all monsters within a 300 li radius, and I've prepared everything as requested. Before leaving, I specifically confirmed whether it would work. Hearing this, Chang Sun advised the girl to stay as far away as possible, because he wasn't confident he could ensure the girl's safety in the upcoming situation. However, at this moment, the girl's eyes were filled with trust, and she stated without hesitation that she would definitely run far away. Then she departed without looking back. But just then, a bone-chilling dark aura suddenly appeared before Chang. The system notification sounded. The final Lord-level monster, the corrupted plague spider, has appeared. Just the toxic gas emanating from its surface made Chang Sun secretly alarmed. For players without any poison resistance, even a tiny amount would cause instant death. Then the plague spider swung its claws toward Chang Sun. Tremendous force instantly tore apart the earth. What followed was even more shocking to the girl. The spider, massive as a mountain, stood proudly amid the dust, its entire body covered with spine-chilling blue eyeballs. The enormous size difference made the previously invincible Chang Sun appear as tiny as an ant. Not only that, the poison gas and dust greatly interfered with Chang Sun's vision and judgment. He activated the skill Snake Eyes. In an instant, his perception ability reached its peak. Every movement of the plague spider would be completely captured. At this moment, the system notification sounded again. The deity, the world serpent, deems you worthy and has granted you a special benefit. Serpent Eye skill is temporarily upgraded to Venomous Serpent Eyes. Under the new skill's enhancement, Chang Sun's perception and judgment received substantial improvement. With just one glance, he identified the plague spider's weak points. Severing them would deal heavy damage. However, before that, Chang Sun needed to use the poison gas to enhance his strength. Then scorching flames erupted from his mouth. The poison gas that had seeped into his body was rapidly being cleared by the accumulated fire energy. Achievement earned. Obtained source of departing fire. Stamina increased by 5. Fire attributes greatly enhanced. Chang then flashed to the front of the plague spider and severed one of its claws with a single strike. Intense pain caused the plague spider to emit a horrific shriek. Through the previous operation, Chang had obtained the flames needed to ignite the 8 trigrams furnace. Next, he needed a medium to ignite the 8 trigrams furnace. And the best medium was poison glands, especially the plague spider's poison glands. At this moment, Chang Sun's eyes flashed with golden light under the skill's enhancement. He instantly locked onto the poison gland's location. Chang Sun then raised his long sword and thrust it fiercely toward the plague spider's body. What he hadn't expected was that his full power strike couldn't even break through the plague spider's outer shell, not even causing the slightest damage. Before he could deliver a second strike, the human heads on the plague spider's surface all aimed at Chang Sun. Emerald toxins instantly sprayed toward him. Fortunately, his agility allowed him to dodge them all. At this moment, Chang Sun understood that 3 days of arduous training were completely insufficient to single-handedly defeat a final Lord-level boss. So he decided that discretion was the better part of valor and vanished from the plague spider's sight in a flash. Meanwhile, on the other side of the jungle, when Jiang Chungjie reached the second area, he saw only a field of monster corpses. The scene before him instantly contorted Jiang Chungjie's features. He couldn't believe why Li Changsun could single-handedly eliminate so many monsters in such a short time. But then the system's prompt immediately left him stunned. Someone was creating a great achievement. At this moment, Li Changsun stood proudly at the top of the leaderboard with an absolute score. No matter how hard John Chongjie tried, he couldn't even reach a fraction of that score. At this moment, John Chongjie began to collapse, his resolve wavering, even panicking without knowing what to do. He couldn't fathom how an ordinary person could become so powerful in such a short time. Even he, blessed by a deity, couldn't keep up. More importantly, if he didn't achieve excellent results soon, the angry deity would surely tear him to pieces. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Player Li Changsun is currently battling the corrupted plague spider. Hearing this, Zhong Chongjie immediately rushed toward the jungle's depths. Only by eliminating Li Changsun could he survive. The scene shifted. Under Changsun's deliberate retreat, he finally led it to the secret pit he had prepared long ago. However, the oblivious plague spider was extremely excited, as if the ant's struggle was highly entertaining. But the moment it landed, the ground suddenly collapsed. The plague spider's massive body instantly sank into the ground, unable to move. Then Changsun activated the runic inscriptions he'd prepared in advance. In an instant, massive explosions echoed throughout the entire jungle. Under the explosive rune's devastating power, the plague spider entered a burned state. But before it could break free, penetrating runes followed. The plague spider's previously impenetrable shell became as fragile as paper under the penetrating force. However, the previous runes were just appetizers. The real trap was just beginning. At this moment, the plague spider dragged its severely injured body out of the pit. It desperately craved human blood to heal its wounds, then it caught a scent that made it intoxicated. When it looked up, its pupils suddenly contracted. Changsun was hanging from a rope with one hand, looking contemptuously at the severely injured and dying magical beast. Worthy of being a Lord-level monster, your health bar is really thick. But can you withstand the next assault? With that, Changsun cut the rope with one slash. Countless giant spears poured out like lightning, instantly piercing through the plague spider's already severely injured body. The survival instinct reached its peak at this moment. The plague spider abandoned all dignity as a Lord-level monster and frantically fled outward. But where could such a mountain-sized body escape to? Changsun pulled the rope again. Another volley of giant spears poured out. This assault even more fierce than before. Giant spears rained down like drops on the plague spider's body. At the same time, Jiang Chongjie arrived with his followers. But when he saw the scene before him, he felt intimidated. He understood that charging in now would offer no chance of victory. He could only wait until Changsun was exhausted to deliver a fatal blow. At this moment, Jiang Chongjie had a sudden inspiration. If he could involve these ordinary people as well, his chances of winning would be much higher. Having hostages would be even better. At this moment, a distant figure suddenly caught his attention. The rapidly running person was the girl who had escaped earlier. At this moment, from Zhong Chungjie's perspective, he had all the advantages of timing, location, and people. This battle was his certain victory. Meanwhile, after 2.5 minutes of intense battle, Changsun successfully killed the plague spider, and he obtained the poison gland needed to ignite the 8 trigrams furnace. Then, under everyone's incredulous gazes, he swallowed it in one gulp. But the next moment, tremendous poison gas erupted from within his body. Boundless toxins severed all life around him, including himself. At the same time, the system notification rang in everyone's ears. Player Li Changsun and everyone around him have fallen into a trap. Upon hearing this, everyone lost their previous composure, and fear caused their bodies to tremble continuously. Zhong Shengjie opened his mouth in disbelief. Only now did he realize how foolish his actions had been. A cold glint flashed in Changsun's eyes, and he mockingly taunted the crowd. "Welcome to the stage I've prepared for you." Seeing this, everyone decided to make their last stand, raising their weapons en masse to attack Changsun. However, this ragtag group was no match for Changsun whatsoever. Wherever his figure passed, nothing remained alive. The enormous power gap terrified everyone into continuous retreat. Even the deities issued an emergency mission with interest, escaped the ambush. But before everyone could run a few steps, two blade flashes suddenly appeared, instantly killing two people. Seeing this, Jiang Chongjae decided to raise his dagger in counterattack. He believed that with his current strength, he could at least go toe-to-toe with Chang Sun. But as their blades clashed together, Zhong Shengjae quickly paid a painful price for this action. His right hand twisted a full 8 turns in a grotesque manner. The intense pain made him emit heart-rending screams. Seeing this, Chang Sun smiled mockingly. He thrust his long sword fiercely into the hard rock beside him, but even the rock couldn't withstand Cheng Sun's tremendous power and shattered with a clang. At this moment, Zhong Shengjae's heart was completely filled with fear. To survive, he desperately commanded the others, "Quick, stop him, you useless fools." However, these people were nothing but fish on a chopping board in Cheng Sun's hands, ready for slaughter. Meanwhile, at the mountain's peak, Park Ha-sung silently observed everything happening below. Just as he had suspected, Jin Shengjae was merely a plaything for the deity's amusement. From the beginning, they had truly set their sights on only Li Changsun. Jin Shengjae was nothing more than a decoration to make the show more attractive during Li Changsun's tutorial guidance, just like himself back then. At this moment, Zhong Shengjae completely turned into a madman, beginning to frantically slaughter his companions. As the last person fell, the corner of his mouth finally curved into a slight smile. "Cursed player Yu Zhongyuan has died. According to the mark agreement, you will receive their remaining life force." But before he could celebrate, the black threads connected to the contract suddenly snapped. At the same time, the system notification sounded, "Contract invalidated. Life force acquisition failed." Then Changshuan's figure flashed, rushing toward him like lightning. His blade transformed into thunder and struck out fiercely, severing Zhong Chengji's right arm with thunderous force. Agonizing wails instantly echoed throughout the forest. However, what broke him down even more was the sound of life force that should have belonged to him not flowing toward him, but being seized by Cheng Sun instead. The double blow to both body and spirit made his pupils lose focus. And he muttered to himself, "This is impossible." Seeing this, Cheng Sun repeatedly pondered the name Zhong Chengjae, as these 3 words sounded strangely familiar. Then he suddenly looked up at the man before him. "You finally remember who I am." However, Chong Sun scratched his chin with a confused expression. "Sorry, I still can't remember who you are." Little did he know that this sentence was the final straw that broke Zhong Chengjae. He roared angrily at Chang Sun, "How can you not remember who I am? It's because of you that I was kicked out of the team during my best years." Upon hearing this, Chang Sun suddenly turned his head and looked at him in surprise. "Oh, it's you." But then he looked at Jiang Chengjae with complete disdain. "That person who came to complain to me about being kicked out of the team, that person was such a disgraceful appearance, crying and complaining to me. After all this time, that disgraceful look of yours hasn't changed one bit." Upon hearing this, Zhong Chengjae was instantly ignited. At this moment, he completely lost his rationality. He defended himself indignantly. "I'm disgraceful. I'm completely different from before. Now, I have the support of a deity." However, as soon as he finished speaking, the cold system notification sounded. "The deity is giving you a dull look." Upon hearing this, Zhao Shangjae looked at the sky in disbelief. "Am I just another supporting character in your story again?" At the same time, the system notification sounded, "You failed to complete the emergency mission, escape the ambush." At this moment, Zhao Shangjae roared and collapsed, tears of unwillingness and regret streaming wildly from his eyes. If only he hadn't been jealous of Li Changsun back then. If only he hadn't been possessed and followed him, he wouldn't have been dragged into this. As a blade flashed past, "Cursed player, Zhong Chengjae, has died." Then countless eerie black auras gushed from his mouth. "According to the mark limitation, your remaining life force will be returned to the host." In an instant, massive life energy poured out under everyone's shocked gazes. Then it swept toward Cheng Sun at this moment. At the same time, the system notification sounded due to the enormous energy. Absorption will require some time. However, at this moment, a strange formation activated Cheng Sun's neck. The tremendous energy instantly surged into his body. Unlike the black aura, Chang Shun now felt as if he had consumed a 100-year immortal pill. The power within his body was growing frantically, though the quality wasn't particularly impressive. Seeing the scene, even the deities couldn't help but express admiration. An ordinary person actually possessed the ability to tamper with high-level marks. Thus, the sacred existence decided to grant Chongqing a reward for this interesting performance. The next moment, blood violently sprayed from everyone's arms. Blood columns formed by the blood lifted them high up like lambs on a chopping board ready for slaughter. Seeing this, Park Ha-sung's heart jumped because this wasn't a reward, but a test directed at Chong Sun by the deities. If he didn't meet their expectations, all his existence would be erased. When he saw Chang Sun's emotionless eyes, Park Ha-sung understood. Chang Sun had no reason to refuse the deity's gift. He had already decided to absorb all the life force. However, the next second, Chang Sun unexpectedly pressed the refuse button, an action that greatly puzzled the deities. To this, Chang Sun only responded coldly, "I cannot trust a completely anonymous deity." The sacred existence looked at its hidden name and laughed loudly, then revealed its true identity. The deity, the great demon of the abyss, looks at you with a sinister grin. Seeing this, Chang Sun's pupils suddenly contracted. It was actually the great demon of the abyss, Mephistopheles. In the demon realm, Mephistopheles was the most powerful among all great demons. His formidable strength was such that even the ancient dragon god Tiamat had to prepare in advance to barely achieve victory. However, he was known for his reclusive nature and dislike of appearing before crowds. Why would he appear here now? Just as Chang Sun didn't know what to do, the avid hunter suddenly issued a stern warning. "Chang Sun belongs to me. If you dare target him, I'll make you pay a painful price." Hearing this, Chang Sun breathed a sigh of relief. If she hadn't come, Chang Sun wouldn't have known what to do. As he cleared the dungeon, the system's cold notification sounded at this moment. "The dungeon will close in 10 seconds. Please prepare for impact." However, at this moment, a voice from the distance called out to Chang Sun. The person was the girl he had previously saved. "Wait, sir. Please give me your contact information." Upon hearing this, Chang Sun only coldly tossed the girl a bone. "Go to the address on the blade's back to completely remove that mark. I'm not skilled with marks. As for whether we'll meet again, let fate decide." As the countdown reached 0, a dazzling light flashed before everyone's eyes. When Chang Sun opened his eyes again, he had returned to the real world. He sat atop the bridge, enjoying the air from his homeland. "Old man, although the method was different from what you intended, I've returned." However, before he could appreciate his hometown scenery, continuous urgent voices reached his ears. But facing these noisy sounds, Chang Sun was quite enjoying them. After all, from the beginning, he considered attracting 2 or 3 sacred existences a success. What he hadn't expected was that due to his outstanding performance in the tutorial match, many sacred existences had developed interest in him. It could even be said to be the first time in human history that so many deities and constellations were simultaneously attracted to a single candidate. At the same time, the system notification sounded. "Mission scenario, selecting your guardian has been formed. All players can select a guardian who will support them with blessings and protection on their long journey to becoming a hero. Think carefully about their suggestions and choose a guardian who will be with you for a lifetime." As soon as the words fell, the deities began extending their olive branches. The avid hunter confidently stated that choosing her would grant him nearly perfect hunting skills and swordsmanship. However, facing such conditions, the sacred existence expressed disdain. If Chang Sun chose it as his guardian star, it would promise to make him the sole primordial sword under its name. Faced with the temptations offered by the deities, Chang Sun wasn't hasty in making his choice. Among these deities, only 3 were beneficial to him. War goddess Pavsog, the earthly serpent Jormungandr, and the great demon of the abyss Mephistopheles. The other constellations could not even compare to these 3 beings. Except for that one particular existence, just then the system notification sounded. "The sacred presence, the twilight-piercing owl has shown favor toward you." Upon hearing this, Chang Sun couldn't help but let a subtle smile curve at the corner of his mouth. The newcomer was Minerva, the moon goddess who presides over wisdom and warfare, and the true bearer of Mephistopheles' seal. She was a deity who eternally fought for justice. Her current interest in Chang seemed to stem from his resistance to the mark's temptation and his protection of others. However, this outcome was precisely what Chang Sun had hoped for in his heart. Thanks to a blessing, the scales that had been tilting toward evil finally balanced. Yet as time passed minute by minute, Chang Sun still had not chosen his guardian star, causing even the system to grow anxious with its prompts. 9 deities are all waiting with anticipation, eager to see which one you will choose as your guardian god. If you fail to make a choice, you will fall significantly behind others of your level. We recommend you make your decision quickly. As the countdown reached 0, the system's cold notification sounded once more. Since you have not selected any guardian deity, you have achieved the accomplishment an irresistibly charming person for refusing the god's invitation. Your reputation in the divine realm has greatly increased, earning you 100,000 karma points. Several gods who had shown interest in you are now both angry and shocked by your greed. Moments later, Chang Sun arrived beneath a towering building. Looking up at the imposing and luxurious structure before him, Chang Sun felt that entering it would be even more difficult than being in the dungeon. Meanwhile, at the WPCFF Association, WPCFF stands for the World Player Committee of Freedom, an organization under the United Nations Security Management Office. This organization is dedicated to effectively managing the dungeons and portals that suddenly appeared decades ago and completely reversed Earth's ecology. At times, they possess tremendous authority, even capable of conducting investigations across national boundaries. Of course, such privileges were only available to the upper echelons who operated this organization. At this moment, in an office within the WPCFF Association building, a woman was furiously cursing at the screen. This person was Zayon, a third-level agent of the association. She had single-handedly safely evacuated the civilians within 5 days, dragging management personnel by their collars to convince neighboring countries, establishing a court online staffed entirely by police and military personnel and providing support. Only then were they able to complete the emergency measures deployment. Yet the result was facing the shameless media's frenzied abuse. And what infuriated her even more was classified Level 1 intelligence belonging to the association was being widely publicized by the media. Who is the mysterious L? Fortunately, the media seemed to treat him as merely a minor news story, not focusing all their attention on him. After all, who would believe that a rookie player could slash through a 2-star dungeon on their first appearance and then vanish without a trace? Such seemingly impossible achievements left Zeon racking her brains trying to figure out how he had accomplished it. However, they needed to find such talent before other organizations could contact him. No matter how hard they tried, searching through all surveillance cameras yielded no traces. Just then, a surprised exclamation came from behind Zeon, nearly giving her a heart attack. "We found him." Hearing this, Zeon immediately inquired about his location, but her subordinate's response left her stunned the next second. She couldn't believe it and asked again, receiving the same answer. L was at home. On the other side, having steeled his resolve, Changsun returned home. Looking at his busy mother, Changsun's heart was filled with emotion. The aroma of pickled vegetables wafting throughout the house made his spirit nearly float away. For him, it had been hundreds of years since he had eaten normal food. The dog, seeing its master, was also extremely excited, constantly pawing at Chang's trouser legs. Seeing this scene, his mother gently said, "Dinner will be ready soon. Go freshen up first before coming to eat." The tenderness he hadn't felt in so long made Changsun feel very unreal. He softly said to the dog in his arms, "I'm home." Moments later, at the dining table, apart from Changsun's sounds of heartily chewing food, no one else moved their chopsticks to enjoy dinner, nor did anyone speak a word. The entire dining room felt lifeless. This was also why Changsun had wanted to escape his home in his previous life. Subsequently, his older brothers and sisters didn't even eat. They got up and left to attend to their work. In this household, Changsun had always been considered a freak. His father's family was a large conglomerate from which he inherited a major hospital, while his mother came from a family of scholars who had cultivated many legal professionals and diplomats. His eldest brother followed in their father's footsteps and pursued the path of medical school, while his eldest sister, with her outstanding musical talent, won many highly competitive international awards. In contrast, since Changsun had been addicted to online games from a young age, he had always been treated as an oddball. Thinking of this, Changsun felt quite bitter in his heart. The youngest child in the family had disappeared for several days, returning home in tattered clothes, yet no one asked or cared. However, just then his father angrily slammed the table. "Are you just going to sit there like a mute?" Looking at his father's inexplicable anger, Changsun felt utterly confused. "Your mother fainted on the spot upon learning about the dungeon gate that appeared in Silkworm Room. And people kept coming to our house, telling us you were very likely caught up in the dungeon. Your brother was so worried about you that he was sent to the emergency room and called every hospital in Seoul. Your sister had to cancel her overseas business trip and stay behind to help your mother search everywhere. But what about you? You come back wearing tattered clothes without a single word of explanation and just start eating. How can you manage to eat? Even the child of a wild beast wouldn't be like this. Wouldn't show consideration for family members, wouldn't care about anything. If this is the life you want, then please leave and stop causing trouble for your brother and sister." After saying this, his father angrily grabbed his briefcase and left. A tiny tear trickled down from the corner of his eyes. Hearing this, Changsun immediately fell silent. Seeing this, his mother quickly came over to comfort him. "Don't pay too much attention to what your father said. After all, when he's angry, he always speaks without thinking," looking at the wrinkles at the corners of his mother's eyes. At this moment, Changsun realized how obstinate and biased his previous self had been. Guilt surged through his heart in an instant. He had always ignored this. He had always waited for his family to show concern for him first, never thinking of extending his hands to them first. "Go back to your room and rest first." "I'm sorry." Hearing this, his mother's expression froze. "I'm sorry, Mom. I won't be like this anymore." After returning to his room, Changsun looked at his room that resembled a garbage dump and sighed about how terrible he had been before. Then he picked up the small dog beside him. "Where should I start untangling this mess? First, let's clean up the room." Moments later, Changsun lay exhausted on his bed. His mind continuously replayed everything that had just happened. His usually cold brothers and sisters had cancelled all their schedules the moment he went missing. His father, who had never shed tears, had even cried for this. Thinking of this, Chung Soon suddenly sprang up from his bed, his gaze gradually hardening. He had to prove that he had changed. He was no longer the muddled drunkard parasite from before. He needed to show his family that he was an adult capable of taking responsibility for himself. If he could focus on his player career, perhaps his family members could gradually open their hearts. Thinking of this, Chung Soon couldn't help but smile slightly. His reborn life was even more wonderful than he had imagined. Since that was the case, he could advance to the second phase early. Thinking about the life he would capture in the second phase made Chung Soon even more excited, his entire face filled with bulging veins and a fierce expression. The god he was about to capture was the ruler who governed this region, the deity virtual lord who held the title Tiger fallen into chaos. In his previous life, this being had been one of the masterminds behind Cheng Soon's divine punishment trial. Cheng Soon could never forget the mocking and ugly expression on Tiger fallen into chaos when he was dragged onto the divine law platform. He now wanted nothing more than to rush over immediately and tear him apart. However, Kyungseon quickly calmed down. Although Virtual Lord was as fierce and ruthless as a tiger, he possessed many followers, and beneath his brutal exterior, he also hid the cunning of a fox. Luring him out and capturing him would not be easy. The only place where he could make contact was through the faction he had established. From the moment dungeons appeared, numerous gods and stars began casting their gazes upon Earth. Many believer groups received protection and blessings from the gods. These groups were called factions, and Virtual Lord was the guardian star providing protection to the White Tiger Gang. Seeing this, Chung Soon couldn't help but complain about his naming talent. Just because he was a white tiger, he chose such a meaningless faction name. Under his leadership, the White Tiger Gang had become the #1 faction in Country H, with numerous members and concentrated experts. Looking at this intelligence, Chung Soon felt somewhat helpless. He currently lacked the strength to wage war, so the fastest way to make contact was to participate in the White Tiger Gang's recruitment meeting and slowly cut off their hands and feet from the bottom up before these fools realized what was happening. However, before participating in the recruitment meeting, he needed to complete a crucial ritual first. So early the next morning, Chung Soon went alone to the wilderness. This was a place he had spent an entire night searching for, because what he was about to do absolutely could not be disturbed, not even by humans or animals, not even the slightest bit. Then he ran toward the depths of the jungle. Moments later, he arrived at an extremely quiet location. After confirming that no living creatures existed within 100 miles, Chung Soon pulled out a knife and cut open his palm. He smeared the blood on a tree and wrote an incantation. Immediately, the emerald barrier rose from the ground. As the barrier slowly dissipated, Chung Soon's figure disappeared along with it. After preparing everything, Chung Soon waved his hand and opened his inventory. From it, he retrieved dozens of high-risk items obtained in the dungeon. Then he bit through a poison sac filled with venom. The next second, tremendous toxins erupted from within, and this was precisely the method the old master had taught Chung Soon for igniting the Furnace of 8 Signs. To ignite the Furnace of 8 Signs, he had to store the purest fire energy within his body and to convert this fire energy into purifying flames. The best fuel was toxins, and purifying flames possessed a peculiar effect. Any harmful substance invading the body would be burned to ash by these flames, and the stronger the harmful substance, the more vigorously the flames would burn. When the flames burned to their peak, the purifying fire could transform into Furnace of 8 Signs fire. The Furnace of 8 Signs fire could burn and purify all harmful substances and accumulated impurities in the body, achieving perfect balance. Then Chung Soon fiercely stabbed the fangs of bloody mamba snake into his heart. In just an instant, the toxin spread throughout his entire body. The unimaginable pain made Chung Soon cry out to the heavens, and simultaneously, the system notification sounded. You have completely absorbed the fangs of bloody mamba snake. You have discovered a hidden trait. You have obtained the genetic material of snake venom. From now on, you can produce small amounts of 8-blooded snake toxin. However, the torment had not ended because of this. It had only just begun. As dozens of types of deadly poisons pierced his body, Chung Soon's body had become a breeding ground for toxins. Tremendous poisonous gas erupted like giant waves. Its power so fierce that it instantly claimed the lives of all creatures within a 100-kilometer radius. Simultaneously, the system's cold notification sounded. Toxins have invaded your vital organs. You are now hanging by a thread. Hearing this, Chung Soon immediately consumed the toxins from the poison thread, and as the final toxin invaded his body, Chung Soon's entire body no longer had a single intact area. Strange green coloration sizzled across his body surface, and simultaneously, the system notification sounded again. 5 types of toxins are creating massive conflict. Your poison state is rapidly deteriorating. Hearing this, Chung Soon remained unmoved, allowing the toxins to wreak havoc on his body until his bodily functions were about to cease. Tremendous flames erupted from his mouth, instantly surrounding his body. Under the toxin's enhancement, the flames burned ever more fiercely. Just then, the system notification sounded. You have successfully ignited the forgotten legendary ancient sacred fire, Furnace of 8 Signs Fire. You have gained the ability to use Furnace of 8 Signs Fire. Under the continuous burning of the Furnace of 8 Signs Fire, Cheng Sun's body began to continuously recover and reconstruct until all toxins within were completely burned away. Achievement unlocked, Phoenix Reborn from Fire. All stats increased by 15%. Gain skill Continuous Purification, with the trait of immunity to toxins purified by Furnace of 8 Signs Fire. Gained skill Poison Blood. At this moment, an unprecedented sense of exhilaration arose in Cheng Sun's heart. He had finally achieved the first condition for an immunity to all poisons constitution, immunity to 10 types of toxins. He then opened his quest status panel. Looking at the astounding attributes on the interface, Cheng Sun was quite satisfied. Without exaggeration, now he was unmatched by anyone below level 50. Next was the most important preparation for the recruitment meeting, obtaining weapons. Moments later, Cheng Sun arrived at the handmade shoe street in Songsudong. The street before him was dilapidated and chaotic, not at all like a place where divine weapons might be found. Cheng Sun had come here because before leaving Hell, the king of the underworld had specifically mentioned Cheng Sun's most unique trait in his previous life as the god of destruction was weapon diversification, meaning that upon his return, he would need numerous weapons to ensure his strength. This also meant Cheng Sun needed a blacksmith who could satisfy his diverse weapon requirements. Generally speaking, someone skilled in forging multiple types of weapons was extremely rare. Even the Divine Realm had never seen such a character. However, in this shop without even a nameplate existed Oyoja, the strongest blacksmith in the world. Looking at the decayed and broken door lock before him, Cheng Sun could predict that the shop had been closed for at least 5 years, but even so, the aura continuously emanating from the gaps in the iron door confirmed that he had found the right place. That rich divine fire aura indicated that the furnace inside had never been extinguished. Even the avid hunter couldn't help but widen her eyes, indicating she could smell the scent of good iron from within. So Cheng Sun immediately smashed the iron lock with a loud crash. The next moment, what came into view was a floor covered with dust-laden iron swords. After surveying the area, Cheng Sun was even more certain he had found the right place. Because each of these weapons carelessly thrown on the ground could sell for astronomical prices in the outside world. Just then, a completely rusted sword caught Cheng Sun's attention. He immediately picked it up and examined it carefully. The blade was covered entirely in rust with no intact areas, appearing as if it would shatter with the slightest force. Yet the aura emanating from the sword made Cheng Sun sense its extraordinary nature. When he saw a particular spot on the blade, his pupils suddenly contracted. Just then, a voice suddenly came from behind. Turning around, he saw a tall dark figure leading a giant wolf standing at the doorway. And what surprised Cheng Sun even more was this person was blind. After the blind man learned of Cheng Sun's intentions, he looked at Cheng Sun as if he were an idiot and mocked. "You're really amusing, actually looking for a blind person to custom make weapons. Are you saying you're bold or that you have money to burn?" Hearing this, the avid hunter quickly nodded in agreement with the blind man's words. Such high-quality weapons couldn't possibly come from a blind person's hands. After saying this, the blind man led his dog away. "If you came here to mock me, then you've succeeded. The blacksmith here left long ago." Hearing this, Cheng Sun smiled slightly. "That may be so, but the furnace's flames still haven't been extinguished, and the calluses on your right hand also appear to be fresh." However, this statement seemed to explode like dynamite. But before the blind man could start cursing, Cheng Sun indicated that he also wouldn't want his old companion serving as his eyes to go hungry. Hearing this, the blind man fell silent. Seeing this, Cheng Sun struck while the iron was hot, throwing out a generous bait for each weapon completed. "I'll give you 10 million and one. After all weapons are finished, regardless of quality, I'll give you another 50 million and one. But if the quality exceeds my expectations, I'll give you another large sum of money." After struggling for a moment, 10 million won was transferred to his bank account. Looking at the message on his phone, he felt everything was so unreal. Seeing this, Cheng Sun added another dose of strong medicine. "This is just the signing fee, not a deposit. Tell me if it's not enough. Add another 5 million. Give me another 5 million and one. I need to pay overdue rent." Hearing this, Cheng Sun said nothing and immediately pulled out his phone to transfer 5 million and one to the blind man's account. Cheng Sun then informed him of the weapons needed to be forged. A 5-meter-long whip, an assemblable spear, 5 battle axes and 1 small axe, 4 different types of swords and 1 shield, plus a bow and arrow and a set of armor. Hearing this, the blind man immediately said he couldn't do it and didn't want the money. However, what responded to him was only the cold numbers in his bank account. A notification indicated 100 million and one had been deposited into his account. This is just your material cost. Tell me if you need more. Oh, and don't say you can't do it, because violating the contract would require you to pay triple the penalty fee. Hearing this, the blind man cursed Chung Soon as a madman. Then he looked up and asked, "Why do you believe I can do it? This is our first meeting, isn't it? It should be our first meeting, and you're unknown, disabled, and have no apparent advantages. But don't you think the person accepting the job doesn't need to question the person giving the job? You make things, I pay money. I think that's enough." Seeing Changshan had no intention of explaining his reasons, the blind man could only reluctantly agree to this request. However, making so many items would require considerable time. He hadn't forged in a long while and needed time to regain his touch. Moreover, there was currently a most important problem. I need a special hammer to work with my furnace. But I don't have that hammer right now. I need you to retrieve it for me. After my father died, my senior brother betrayed him and stole father's hammer. With this, he joined another sect, and that sect is called High-Off. Looking at Changshan's puzzled expression, the blind man asked, "You really don't know? They are one of the 10 major faction sects." Hearing this, Changshan expressed his disinterest. "You just need to tell me where the address is." Hearing this, the blind man looked at Changsun incredulously. "Are you planning to rob the hammer single-handedly? That place is extremely dangerous." However, Changsun's eyes only flashed with cold killing intent. "You don't need to worry. As long as I kill everyone there, no evidence will remain." Looking at Changsun's confident expression, at this moment, the blind man realized why he was attracted to such a person. If he were his boss, then he could definitely accomplish it. So the blind man immediately told Chang the address. They are hidden in a tomb on Fenghua Mountain in Zhangwang District, Seoul. Meanwhile, on the other side, 3 uninvited guests had arrived at Changsun's home. The moment they met, cold mockery began. Association people are still as slow as turtles. Hearing this, Zaihan's brows furrowed as she cursed herself for being too careless. With such a talented youth appearing, other factions would definitely try every means to recruit him, and these two were renowned powerhouses in the industry. Yu Yingjing, the Human Resources Director of Wisdom Sword, nicknamed the Black Persian Scimitar. SEO Zhongquan, second team captain of White Tiger Gang's battle team called Saber-Tooth Tiger for his fierce and brutal fighting style. However, what puzzled Zayan was that generally these people wouldn't personally visit for a rookie, especially not on the same day. You must know, White Tiger Gang possessed the strongest capabilities in all of Korea, and their signature false whiskers could only be worn by those with exceptional strength within the faction. As for Yu Yingjing, the Human Resources Director of Wisdom Sword, his wisdom and methods made industry professionals tremble with fear. In just a few months, he had made Wisdom Sword a subsidiary of Oshon Group, rapidly becoming a major faction at incredible speed. And he was also the uncle of conference soldier Ho Baoyang, one of the dungeon survivors. So even if he were a super rookie, it wouldn't be possible to mobilize both of these people simultaneously. Therefore, she deduced that Li Changshan must be hiding secrets unknown to the association. But there was only one Li Changshan. If they couldn't recruit him to their side, they would definitely find ways to prevent Li Changsun from being recruited by other forces. As Xion took her seat, both sides erupted in heated argument. If the lightning produced by the collision of their gazes could become weapons, it might destroy the entire city. Just then, Changsun's mother interrupted. "So you mean all 4 of you came to recruit my youngest son?" Hearing this, both sides eagerly confirmed. Then they presented generous conditions that would drive countless people mad. Hearing this, Changsun's mother simply closed her eyes quietly. "I understand both sides' intentions, but this is a decision my youngest son should make. So you shouldn't discuss this matter with me. At the same time, I have other questions I'd like to ask everyone. You mentioned my child spent the past 5 days in the Silkworm Room dungeon. Can you tell me more details? What exactly did my Changshan do there?" Meanwhile, on the other side, Changshan arrived at a deep mountain forest, following the blind man's directions. According to known intelligence, the reason the High-Off faction recruited his bastard senior brother was for an extremely secretive operation, opening a tomb. Legend says that the High-Off wanted to secretly clear a sarcophagus-shaped dungeon. But since they couldn't find the key component to open the stone door, they needed a high-level blacksmith to forge it for them, so they recruited his senior brother. Looking at the heavily guarded crowd at the entrance, Cheng Sun was quite certain that if such items which were difficult to obtain appeared in dungeons, they would definitely contain massive rewards. Then he looked up at the moon in the sky after reporting to his mother through his phone. He began researching intelligence about the High-Off, but what he hadn't expected was, the internet was flooded with negative news about the High-Off. They had involvement in all sorts of grey industries. Seeing this, Chang Sun made his decision. Since these people were all trash, there was no need to show mercy. He could kill them all. Just then, the system notification sounded. The sacred existence, the twilight-piercing owl, is pleased with your sense of justice and nods in approval. You have received the blessing of unyielding spirit, possessing immunity to mental control effects. This sudden blessing was unexpected for Chang Sun. It seems he misunderstood me, but if blessings are to be granted, I'd prefer Wise Eyes or Goddess Blade. Then Chang Sun pulled out a mask from his chest. This mask had cognitive obstruction effects, effectively preventing people from investigating Chang Sun's identity through special means. Next, he pulled out a dagger radiating intense cold. The next moment, the dagger shot out like lightning, so fast that the guards couldn't react at all. These daggers, upon contact with human bodies, instantly formed large amounts of sharp ice, completely encasing these people. Then Chang Sun's figure flashed into the crowd. A flash of blade light passed. Everyone turned into countless fragments and debris. However, Chang Sun wasn't satisfied with this. These scum should have suffered more pain. Saying this, Chang Sun cut his palm with a knife, activating his blood poison skill. Blood seeped through the ice blocks, following capillaries into the enemies' bodies. Under blood poison enhancement, the ice poison from daggers made by Ice Kite and will became even more potent. Intense agony made them emit heart-wrenching screams. Then Chang Sun entered the dungeon. Under the mask's enhancement, the originally pitch-black dungeon appeared, extremely bright to his eyes. According to his previous plan, the High-Off to facilitate keyforging should have placed the furnace at the boss room entrance. If he could take this opportunity to defeat the boss and claim rewards, that would be ideal. But an unexpected situation had now arisen. Chang Sun suddenly stopped, coldly addressing behind him, "Come out." After a long while, no figure appeared from behind. Seeing this, Chang Sun merely made a gentle threat. "If you don't come out, I'll have to give this to the next administrator I meet." As soon as he finished speaking, from the corner behind Chang Sun, a sinister and cunning rabbit suddenly appeared. He was the rabbit administrator who had appeared in the dungeon. "Pleased to meet you. I am Dungeon Administrator Harold." The sacred existence, the avid hunter expressed great surprise at this, wondering why this bastard would appear here. Hearing this, Harold smiled contemptuously. Other sacred existences cast pitying glances at the avid hunter. How could there be such a foolish deity? Harold's appearance here was to write a report about Changshan. Hearing this, Harold's heart suddenly trembled. "How do you know about the report?" At this moment, Harold's inner world was in complete turmoil. Reports were used to record detailed information about targets that interested the gods and were a very important part of the Management Bureau's assessment. How did this rookie know about this? However, the next second Harold set up a laptop on the spot, writing everything that had just happened into it. The gods should be very interested in such information. Then he glanced at Chang Sun nearby, beginning to analyze the pros and cons of what Chang had just said. Many gods were now interested in him, and even the Management Bureau had given him considerable pressure. Although he wanted to secretly follow him, he had been discovered. But his report was already half-written. Thinking of this, Harold began sweating profusely. If his report recording rights were transferred to another administrator, wouldn't he be unable to advance his career for life? Thinking of this, Harold couldn't help but shed tears. Just then Changshan suddenly spoke, indicating he could keep the recording rights. "But as repayment, I need you to help me with something." "Not now. I'll tell you later." Hearing this, an ominous premonition arose in Harold's heart. "I can guarantee it's nothing difficult, and I'll tell you before leaving this dungeon." Hearing this, Harold pretended to consider for a moment before readily accepting this request. Changshuan's mouth curved into a mysterious smile. "Then this contract is established." As soon as he finished speaking, a magic circle suddenly appeared on the ground, and simultaneously the system notification sounded. "Player Li Changshan and Administrator Harold have entered a mana pact." Hearing this, Harold immediately regretted it. At this moment, looking at Chang Sun's eyes filled with disbelief, he even knew about magical contracts. Anyone who said he was a rookie would get an argument from me right now. Meanwhile, in the depths of the dungeon, Half-Battle Department Chief Li Chaisong was furiously cursing at his subordinates. They had already failed 9 consecutive times in forging the key. If they failed again, they would not only face punishment, but might also be sacrificed. He then ordered his subordinates to bring that bastard Chen Diehuan over. Chen Diehuan, who had joined the High-Off, wasn't as high and mighty as everyone had imagined. Instead, he knelt on the ground like a dog. He quickly explained that he could definitely forge the key if provided with more blood. However, before he could finish speaking, Li Chaisong kicked him flying. At this moment, he also regretted entrusting this important matter to a waste of unknown origin. Then he looked at him with murderous intent. "So you only need blood?" Hearing this, Chen Diehuan quickly kowtowed, indicating he only needed blood. 2 parts of the keyhole had already been successfully opened, with only the last one remaining. "I'll trust you for now, but if you fail once more, I will definitely tear you and your family to shreds. Remember this clearly." Just then, the system notification sounded. "New data has been loaded. Leaderboard update imminent. On the leaderboard appeared a name that didn't belong to their faction, Li Changsun. Meanwhile, on the other side of the dungeon, with Changsun's permission, Herald's report writing speed increased dramatically. But even so, he still felt quite shocked. Changsun had easily cleared the 3 areas of the dungeon in just 30 minutes. He could not only casually slice through suddenly appearing large iron balls, but also intercept arrows shot from all directions without even looking, as if he had memorized the sequence and positions of all traps. In Herald's memory, this was already the 4th year that the KM-921 dungeon remained uncleared. What shocked him even more was that Changsun had attracted the attention of 12 constellations among the 28 star mansions. This hadn't occurred in 100 years, making him think of a certain god, a being that made the entire divine realm tremble with fear, the god of destruction. His powerful strength mocked countless gods and star races, yet even one as mighty as he had ultimately fallen.